man sat on the bench looking out at the river, the moon reflecting off the lapping currents, creating a marble carpet of shifting patterns that hid the impenetrable depths. The wind that had been a gentle breeze when he arrived here had become a stronger force, reflecting the turmoil inside. He wanted to feel nothing. He was willing himself to jump, to surrender to the opaque water, and took away any choice he felt he had. To grasp, to choke, to struggle, and the end was his plan. He wanted to do this, but as yet the will to run and leap deserted him. Perhaps he was wrong. Perhaps he could escape from this panic-induced guilt and satisfy the urges again. Perhaps. As he struggled with the knot that tightened inside him, he became aware of a different sensation. To begin with, he could not understand the source of this change, but it slowly began to distract him from his thoughts. He was surprised to find strange odours assailing him. First the blunt starchy odour of milled corn, and then the smell of chopped timber, the bark, moss and wood oil enveloping his senses. This surprised him, but as yet he felt no fear. He became curious and looked around him to locate the source. Instantly the man was startled to find himself in surroundings unfamiliar to those he had just sat in moments ago. The moon had shifted its location to his left and now cast a vivid, luminous beam upon the scene, whilst the steel railing which had separated him from his purpose was now gone, leaving no barrier at the river's edge. Even more surprising was the fact that to his right, the long concrete marina and the array of boats tied up around it was now gone and had been replaced by an old wooden pier, its wooden frame jutting from the riverbed. No boats were moored there, and its turf-like frame stood lonely in the moonlight. He cast a glance to his left and saw a dark mass of logs piled up along the river's edge, and beyond that a series of large metal warehouses with corrugated roofs looming in the darkness. He was startled by this sudden change and wondered if he was still conscious. Indeed, he must be hallucinating, since none of this could be real, at least not here and not now. And then he saw the boy. The child stood near the mass of logs, a pale, slight figure, barely perceptible against the dark shadows, and the man had to check himself to ensure that the figure was indeed there. The boy's gaze seemed to adjust and focus on him, and then the small figure began to walk towards where the man sat. As the figure approached, the man noticed something in the boy's hand, at which the boy, having noticed this attention, lifted the thing and began to place it over his head. Moving closer, the boy's face came into focus, but gave no sense of reassurance. The face was cast in a weird frame, and the man realized with an icy chill that this was no face, but rather a mask that covered the apparition's features. This disguise was familiar, but did not diminish the surging unease the man felt. "It's the Count," the boy said. The voice was faint and floated eerily in the wind. "1, 2, 3 bats. Ah!" The man sat still, gravity bearing down all its might on him, his gaze fixed on the boy. "Ah, there is room for one more. Now 4 bats. 1, 2, 3, 4 bats," the boy continued. "Bats in the belfry, bats in the cave, bats in the treetops and around my grave," the voice whispered. The man summoned all his effort to speak. Despite the unearthly nature of the encounter, this child was real. Why should he be scared? In reality, the child should be scared of him. "Where did you come from?" he asked. "From here," the child answered. I've been here a long time. I've been waiting. They told me to wait, and so I waited. Do you like my mask? He asked. I know the mask. It's the Count from Sesame Street, isn't it? Who told you to wait? The man replied. My new friends told me. There are 3 of us, but the other 2 are hiding. We are playing a game, but you and I will find them soon. You're right. Yes, it is the Count. The nice man in the shop bought it for me, but I didn't like him after, and now I'm waiting here. In the luminescent light, the boy's frame appeared almost transparent as he spoke, and the man also saw that the child's clothes appeared soaked with moisture, though no drops fell onto the ground. The outfit sagged heavily on the child's body, but the boy's movements gave no sign of discomfort. The policeman told me there are strong currents in the river. Not the currents you get in a keg. I don't like those, but winding snakes that drag you down. I don't like those either. He told me not to play near the river, but it's nice beside the river, so I don't care anymore. Do you like it here? Do you want to play? The boy said. The man tried to focus all his attention on the boy, but the snatches of memory encroached on him and magnified his unease. Who was this boy, and why did he speak in such a familiar way? He should feel no threat, but adrenaline coursed through him, and fear began to grip him. This was ridiculous. He shouldn't feel scared, but this was exactly how he now felt. He remembered the scents again. Didn't there used to be an old corn mill here a long time ago? Large bags of grain gathered in the mounds at the back of the building. The mill casting a shadow over the quay, and the logs piled high with nooks and crevices to slide into, secret places where you could hide and remain hidden in the dark, places to play special games. Secret games only we need to know about, he had once said. The heady scent and the wood sap sticking to your clothes, stains so hard to wash away. The river washed away his stains back then, eventually washing up on the shore to attend to someone else's grief. He returned his attention to the boy. My mask is magic. It never leaves me. It stays with me always. Wherever it is, I'm there, and wherever it goes, I follow. But I've decided to give it away now. I will have no need for it soon. The Count is cool. He always counts, and he knows the number. The Cookie Monster never really eats the cookies. Everyone knows that the Count knows the number. 1, 2, 3 bats. And now one more, 4 bats. I see 4 bats. That is good. 4 is the number of the day. Ahahaha. The boy laughed and heartily, but the man felt no good cheer. The boy moved closer to the man and began to remove the mask from his face. Slowly the mask slipped, and as it did, so the child's features were revealed. His lips were swollen and blue, and where his eyes should have been lay only deep, dark, hollow craters. The nose was equally devoid of any shape, and his hair clung limply to his skinless forehead. What skin remained on the cheeks hung in worm-like strips, leaving gaps where blackness loomed. The man, stricken with absolute terror, tried to move away from the wretched sight, but his body remained rigid and would not move as much as he tried to retreat. I've decided to give the mask to you, said the boy in a hollow lisp, as the jaw moved in an unnatural fashion. It's my gift to you. They said you wouldn't do it, so I'm going to make sure you do. He stretched out his disfigured arm and offered the mask, held loosely in a bony grasp, to the man. The man tried to shy away from the offering, but he now felt no will of his own. His own hand was compelled to reach out and take the hellish gift, despite all his desire to do otherwise. He now held the mask in his own hand and stared hard at it, trying to avert his attention from the creature that loomed beside him. Remember, it's magic. Wherever it goes, you follow. It is yours now, my special gift to you and to them. The man continued to stare at the mask in his hand, trying hard to unravel all of the preceding events and regain some semblance of lucidity, but nothing aided him. He had descended into madness, and there was no ladder to ascend from it. He looked at the boy again, hoping that he may have gone, hoping that he was no longer there, hoping that the world would be as it was, but the boy stood fast, now more vivid than ever, his expression hawkish, disfigured, and joyless. The wind is strong tonight, the boy said. At these words the man began to become aware of the dark night around him, and the stark gibbon moonlight that illuminated the mask, the black cowlick, the tiny fangs, and the hollow eyes. He felt the wind against his frame as it swirled around him, and he began to feel his body sway with its force. The gale that had been was now more akin to a storm, and he began to rouse from his paralysis. At least he could now move, he thought. He could run, he could flee, and be safe, but the wind drove against him with a powerful force. The mask in his hand flew from his grasp and swirled into the night sky. It floated and veered like a kite in a jet stream, and then blew towards the woodpile, lodging there in a seam between the logs. Remember, where it goes you have to follow, the boy cried out, and all at once the man felt an uncontrollable urge to retrieve the mask and keep it safe. Before he knew what he was doing, he was clambering up the mass of wood to capture the escaped treasure. He was now near, but as his hand reached out and touched it, a new gust loosened the mask, and it swooped up into the air once more. The man cried out and watched as it flew towards the river, landing on the ground before the edge. He climbed down and chased after the mask once more, hearing a haunted cackle as he did so, but choosing to ignore it as he ran towards the ground where his new gift lay. Again, he had just about grasped it, when a new gust took it over the edge into the water below. It floated against the river wall and swirled in the river's flow. He was determined now to retrieve his gift, and began to climb down the wall's edge that sloped into the shimmering chasm. The mask was his, he would not let it go. If he could reach out now, he knew he could grab it and place it safely in his jacket. He reached out and touched it. He felt a thrill that he was about to retrieve it, and then the current took command, wrenching the mask further into the swirling ripples and out of his reach. He roared a curse and followed the mask's meandering route from the river's edge. A presence close by aroused him out of his stupor. He looked around. The boy was crouched beside him, the hollow gaze fixed upon him. "You need help," the boy said. "They told me you wouldn't go through with it. Just a little push, just one tiny little favor, and then we could finish. The mask has a price, and you have to pay for it in order to keep it, so now the payment is due. I'm going to help you." The man stared in horror at the apparition and felt a new terror at the words just uttered. The boy reached out and pushed him into the freezing water below, and with an unnatural force, he struggled to gain purchase on the riverbank, but he flailed in the liquid around him and swallowed cold, acrid draughts. Then the boy was in the water alongside him, his hand pressing down on his shoulders. The man thrashed as the monster pressed down against him, and then he became aware of new hands pressing down upon him. There were now 3 figures surrounding him, all with the same cold grimace, all with the same determined intent. The man screamed. 1, 2, 3 bats, they all cried in unison. And now there is room for 1 more. 4 bats. 1, 2, 3, 4 bats, they yelled. 3 little bats and a big nasty bat who doesn't know how to swim. Ha ha. The man tried to scream once more. He tried to fight against the force pressed upon him, but no noise came and no fight arose. He swallowed once more and dipped beneath the surface. Bats in the belfry and bats in the cave, bats in the treetops and around his grave. Ha 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 ha. The wind dropped and nothing stirred on the surface of the water, apart from the drifting currents of the river. All was now subdued, and the moon reflected off the half-dozen yachts that clung to the concrete marina. A faint aroma of moss hung in the air, and then it too was gone.